Once upon a time, in a grand mansion on the outskirts of a bustling city, there lived a wealthy man named Mark. Mark had it all: money, power, and a beautiful wife named Clara. Their house was enormous, with sweeping views of the city, and everything about their lives seemed perfect. But behind closed doors, things weren't as they appeared. Mark, a successful businessman, had built his empire from the ground up. Clara, his wife, was the epitome of grace and beauty. She had long, flowing hair, sparkling eyes, and a smile that could melt anyone's heart. They had been married for 5 years, and from the outside, it looked like they were the perfect couple. But Clara had a secret. In the shadow of their perfect life, Clara was having an affair. The man she had fallen for was no other than James, the gateman of their mansion. James was a young man, strong and handsome, but he had no wealth or status. He worked for Mark, guiding his gates of the mansion and making sure no one entered without permission. He was the type of man who kept to himself, but when he crossed paths with Clara, sparks flew. Clara and James began meeting secretly, their stolen moments filled with passion and excitement. They thought they were clever, sneaking around when Mark was away at the work or on a business trip. They would share quiet, stolen kisses in the garden or meet in the dirty laundry room when no one was around. To them, it was the perfect escape for the suffocating life they lived. For Clara, the affair wasn't just about physical attraction. She had always felt trapped in her marriage. Mark was a good man, but he was always busy with his business, and their relationship had become more of a routine than a romance. James, on the other hand, made her feel alive again. The rush of secrecy, the stolen moments of passion, it all made her feel like she was living on the edge. The affair seemed like a thrilling secret they could keep hidden forever. But as the day went by, Mark started noticing things that didn't add up. He found Clara staring off into the distance, a faraway look in her eyes. She seemed distracted, more distant, and no longer interested in the things that once brought her joy. Mark couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, but he didn't know what. Mark, being the intelligent man he was, started to observe more closely. He noticed Clara's sudden defensiveness whenever he asked her simple questions. She changed the subject quickly or offered vague answers. One day, he found a piece of jewelry that didn't belong to her, tucked away in the drawer of their bedroom. He was sure it wasn't his. It was a gift from a previous lover, a gift Clara had once admired. His suspicions grew, but he didn't yet have the full picture. Mark decided to act. He hired a private investigator to follow Clara and find out what she was doing whenever he wasn't around. The investigator spent days shadowing her, gathering evidence, and watching her secret meeting with James. It didn't take long for Mark to receive the confirmation he dreaded. His wife, the woman he had loved and trusted, was having an affair with the man who guarded his gates. The revelation hit Mark like a thunderbolt. His world felt like it was crashing down. The woman he had built everything for, the one he had treated like royalty, was betraying him. He was furious, but instead of confronting her right away, he decided to bide his time. He wanted to make sure that when he confronted Clara and James, they knew he was in control. Days passed, and Mark's anger simmered. He steeled himself for the confrontation, preparing for the moment when he would face them both. He spent the next few nights alone in his study, piecing together his thoughts and plans. He knew that the confrontation would be tough, but he had no intention of letting either of them off easily. Then one night, the moment arrived. Clara came home late from a shopping trip. As usual, Mark had been waiting for her. He stood in the living room, his back straight, his fists clenched, his jaw tight with resolve. When Clara walked in, she immediately noticed the tension in the room. Mark was standing by the fireplace, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Mark, what's wrong?" Clara asked, her voice wavering slightly. "Clara, we need to talk," Mark said, his voice wavering slightly. "Clara, we need to talk," Mark said, his voice steady but filled with hurt. Clara froze, sensing something was wrong. "What about, Mark?" "I know about you and James," he said, his eyes locking onto hers. "I know everything." Clara's face drained of color. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her mind raced. She tried to think of an excuse, a way out of this, but it was too late. Mark had already uncovered the truth. The weight of his words hit her like a tidal waves. "I know everything about the affair," Mark continued. "The secret meeting, the stolen moment, the lies. It's all out in the open now. And Clara, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed." Clara stumbled back, trying to find the words to justify herself. "Mark, I never meant to hurt you. But Mark interrupted, his voice cold and firm. "You made your choice. You betrayed me with someone I trusted. And now you will have to face the consequences." He wasn't finished yet. "Call him. Call James. He's part of this too." Clara hesitated, but she knew she had no choice. With shaking hands, she dialed James' number. Moments later, he arrived, walking through the front door as if nothing were amiss. But when he saw Mark standing in the middle of the living room, he immediately knew something was wrong. Mark stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. "You thought you could get away with this? You both thought I wouldn't find out." He looked at James with cold fury. "You have been working for me, protecting my home, and yet you were the one who betrayed my trust." James tried to speak, but Mark didn't give him the chance. "I've spent years building this life, this empire, and I'm not going to let you tear it down over some affair." He turned to Clara, his eyes burning with betrayal. "As for you, Clara, I gave you everything, and now you have chosen him. You are no longer welcome in my life." The words cut through Clara like a knife. She had never seen Mark like this before. Calm, collected, but with a quiet intensity that made her realize the gravity of her actions. The life she had once known was slipping away. Mark wasn't done. "James, you are fired, and I will make sure you never found work in this city again. You will never set foot in another mansion as long as you live. I will make sure everyone knows what you did." He turned back to Clara, his expression hardened. "As for you, Clara, I will make sure the world knows what you did to me. Your luxury, your comfort, your status, it's all gone now." The finality of it all hit Clara like a punch to the gut. Her life had unraveled before her eyes, but it was only just the beginning. The next days were brutal. James found himself wandering the streets, unable to find work anywhere. Word had spread quickly about the affair, and no one wanted to take a chance on him. He tried applying to other jobs in nearby town, but word of the scandal had already followed him. No one would hire him. As he sat alone in his small apartment, his mind wandered to his choice he had made. But it was too late for regrets now. Clara, meanwhile, was left with nothing but the bitter taste of her actions. She was forced to sell the luxury car, the designer clothes, the jewelries that had once sparkled on her fingers. Without Mark's money and status, she quickly realized how isolated she was. Her friends, the social circle she had once thrived in, quickly turned their backs on her. She was left to navigate a world she had never truly understood. But it was the loneliness that hit her the hardest. Every night she lay awake in the silence of her small apartment, her thoughts consumed by the life she had thrown away. She longed for the comforts of her former life, but deep down, she knew she could never go back. Mark, however, was slowly finding peace. Thought his heart had been broken. He had learned the hard lesson that trust once shattered could never be fully restored. The mansion was still empty, but he began to rebuild his life. He focused on his business, his passions, and began to take control of his own happiness. He had learned that sometimes walking away from a relationship, no matter how painful, was the only way to truly heal. Clara and James had betrayed him, but they had also given him the strength to move forward and reclaim his life back. The end.